Yes, everything you've heard about the Cathouse is absolutely 100% true. Every story, the debauchery, oh my god.
Hold on a second. This is a new episode of the Cathouse Hollywood podcast that has been released, probably 3 or 4 times in the last 3 years. Yeah, brand new, right? So I've been updating the podcast and re-releasing them with a goal to start releasing the archived episodes and give you new ones. But this time, the Cathouse Hollywood podcast is going to be different. And yes, Rack Pack, that have been listening to these podcasts for a while, I know that I make promises to keep on putting out episodes, and then I end up taking the archived episodes down. Give me a break, people. I want to put these podcasts out regularly. But you got to remember, you know me, I'm a control freak. I'm the writer, the host, the producer, editor, and I guess sort of the promoter of this show, even though it really isn't promoted. Well, it is by people like you that tell people about the Cathouse Hollywood podcast. Okay, today's show, or at least this opening that you are listening to right now, is being recorded on September 23rd, 2023. Interestingly enough, today, or at least the day that I'm recording this, is the Cathouse's 37th anniversary. And I'll get to that a little later in the show. At the end of this 14-minute episode, I have some discount codes for some really cool stuff. And I'll tell you where I will be in October, because it's going to be one of the biggest months for me, and I'm really looking forward to it. And hopefully I'm going to get to meet some of you out there like I did on this past OFITG tour. But I'll get into that a little bit later. Let's get back to this brand new 3-year-old episode of the Cathouse Hollywood podcast. Coming to you from the Cathouse South Studios in Race City, USA, this is episode 1 of the Cathouse Hollywood podcast. In 1986, I was a club DJ at some of LA's biggest underground dance clubs. My then roommate, Taime Downe, worked in a clothing store on Melrose called Retail Slut. He was about to play his first show in his new band called Faster Pussycat. With my promoting skills and his popularity in the Hollywood rock scene, which was really just beginning at the time, we decided to open up a rock and roll dance club. In the movie The Metal Years, Taime says, "We opened up the club to get free drinks and to meet strippers." To be honest, that was the motivation. From 1986 to 1992, Riki Rachtman's world-famous Cathouse became the most notorious rock club in Hollywood. Our house band was Guns N' Roses, and some of the biggest names in rock and roll performed live at the Cathouse. But the Cathouse was more than just live bands. It was a haven for sleaze and debauchery, raunch and roll. I had a strict no-camera rule, so anything could and did happen at the Cathouse. I've never shared these stories until now. I'm Riki Rachtman, and each episode of the Cathouse Hollywood podcast will paint the picture of that moment of rock and roll excess. It might be a musician that sold 5 million records, or the girl that worked at Cocheck. It doesn't matter. At the Cathouse, we were all rock stars. For episode 1, we go back to February 6th, 1990. You'll hear the tale about the only band to ever pay to play the Cathouse. That year, they went from obscurity to become one of the biggest rock and roll bands of 1990. The Cathouse Hollywood podcast will return right after this.
Do you love coffee? I mean, really love coffee? Do you know what specialty coffee is? It's a coffee that scores above 80 points on a 100-point scale. Specialty coffee is grown at high altitudes with care and attention from local farmers. There is a specialty coffee with a name you already know. Introducing Cathouse Coffee. I'm Lea Vendetta, CEO of Cathouse Coffee. Riki and I are there every step of the way. We roast in small batches, so when you get a bag of Cathouse coffee, you know it's fresh, 100% Arabica, dark roast. Cathouse Coffee, your new favorite coffee. Order at cathousecoffee.com.
Welcome back to Riki Rachtman's Cathouse Hollywood podcast. It's February 6th, 1990. George Bush was the president, Goodfellas was topping the box office, and a killer Clive Barker movie, Nightbreed, was just released. Ice Ice Baby became the first rap song to reach number one. Yeah, the first number one rap song was a white guy. All the cool people were watching Twin Peaks. Gas was about $1.15 a gallon. The Simpsons had just aired the first episode. When you think of some of the great classic hard rock heavy metal records, you of course think the 80s. But the fact is, in 1990, there were some awesome albums released. For instance, Megadeth, Rust in Peace, Alice in Chains, Facelift, Cinderella, Heartbreak Station, Slayer, Seasons in the Abyss, and the album I never stopped playing in 1990, Lights, Camera, Revolution by Suicidal Tendencies. In 1990, Judas Priest was involved in a multi-million-dollar lawsuit involving two Nevada teenagers who killed themselves, and it was allegedly caused by the song Better By You, Better Than Me. The band won the case. 1990 was 2 years before the first website. I had been the host of MTV's Headbangers Ball for about a month. The Cathouse had been open for 4 years. Around the LA club scene, there was a policy that the other promoters used called pay to play. Basically, if you were a promoter and you were putting on a show, you would get the opening bands to buy tickets in advance. It didn't even matter what you sounded like. So let's say you wanted to play with Guns N' Roses at the Roxy. You were the opening band. You had to buy 100 tickets at about $20 a pop. That's about $2,000. It didn't matter how good you were. If you had the money to buy the tickets in advance, you'd be on that show. What that did was guarantee the promoters would break even before the doors even opened. It also meant if you were a really good band but you didn't have much money, you were pretty much fucked. Cathouse never used a pay-to-play policy, except for one instance. I remember reading an article that said that I ran the Cathouse with a Don Corleone attitude, meaning that if you were a band and you wanted to play the club, you had to go through me. That's pretty much the case, but that guaranteed that we didn't have any shitty bands on the Cathouse stage. It became almost like a feather in the cap to play the Cathouse, sort of like what the Apollo was during the Motown era. I remember one day getting a phone call in my office from Pete Angelus. Pete Angelus was a video director and a manager, having worked with David Lee Roth, and he was currently working with record label mogul and producer Rick Rubin. Pete told me about this new band he was working with from Atlanta and asked if I could give them a slot at the Cathouse. I told him, send me a tape, and do you think we could get David Lee Roth to play a show at the club? He said, I'll see what I can do, and he sent the tape. I listened to it, and surprisingly, it was really good. It had a real 70s vibe to it, sort of reminiscent of Rod Stewart and Faces. Pete called me back, told me that he'd give me $400 if I gave him a guest list, and he'd put the band on early. I said, okay, but do you think you could get me David Lee Roth? Again, Pete said, I'll see what I can do.
We got a phone call from our record company in December telling us that we were going to be taking a brand new band out on the road with us. It was by the request of Rick Rubin.
Patrick Muzinga is the drummer of the band Junkyard. They came from East Hollywood. They had a couple hit records on Geffen. Songs like Blues, Hands Off, Simple Man, and Hollywood that got played on MTV. Junkyard, like a lot of the bands from that Cathouse era, had their roots in punk rock. Pat played in the band Decry, and their guitarist Brian Baker, who is currently in Bad Religion, played in Minor Threat. Pat recalled the night that he and Brian went to the Cathouse.
We get word that this band that we're going out with is playing the Cathouse, and that date is actually February 6, 1990. We heard the band's name, and we all kind of looked at each other, and we're like, wait a minute, we're taking a speed metal or a death metal band out with us? Just because of the band's name.
And the name of that band was the Black Crowes.
There was a bunch of guys walking around the crowd that, looked the part of probably, I would say, definitely Faces vibe. So the band takes the stage and they kick off the set, and we kind of look at each other and we're like, holy crap, this band is actually really good. And afterwards we, kind of chatted with the guys, and I was really excited because I was like, wow, we're going out on the road with this band, and every night we get to have a good band open up for us. So 2 weeks into the tour, they get a little bigger. 3 weeks into the tour, they're even bigger. By the end of the tour, well, they should have definitely been headlining because everybody was really coming to see them. Looking back on it, it was a blast, seeing this band, really blow up in front of our faces. Cathouse was there to kick it all off. You have to go back to saying, like, the first time we heard the band's name, the Black Crowes, and not hearing a single note or a single song or seeing a picture, we just figured, great, death metal band. Yeah, boy, were we wrong.
I remember the night the Black Crowes played the Cathouse. I showed up early because my security guards had a dilemma. They didn't know how to get a 500-pound Hammond C3 organ up onto our tiny stage. Big shocker, no band had ever played the Cathouse with a big vintage organ. So let's get this straight. The Black Crowes pay to play the Cathouse. The following week from their performance, they release their album, Shake Your Moneymaker. Then they do a little tour, opening up for Junkyard. Release the single Jealous Again. That song goes to number 5, followed by Hard to Handle, which goes to number 1. Just a few months after playing at the Cathouse, the Black Crowes became one of the biggest selling rock bands of 1990, with that album selling over 5 million copies. And for the record, David Lee Roth never did end up playing the Cathouse, but he did hang out at Bordello, but that's for another episode of the Cathouse Hollywood Podcast. Hold on a second. I'm not ready to leave you just quite yet. The Riki that's talking to you is the Riki of today, being September 23rd, 2023. Actually, no, because I don't know when you're listening to this show. So the Riki that you hear today might be the Riki that actually recorded this a month ago, while I played an episode that was new, that was actually released 3 or 4 times 4 years ago. I know it's confusing. Look, I will do my best to start getting more and more episodes out there. But right now, what I want to do is talk about October 2023, because I've got a lot of events that I'm going to be at, and I love meeting you guys on the road. You know I do. I mean, that's one thing that I've enjoyed so much about this One Foot in the Gutter tour. And if you don't know what it is, I'll tell you a little bit about that in the next coming episodes, because I'm going to start banging these out seriously. And most of the ones that are going to be brand new are actually old, but just go with me on this, okay? October 7th, the Cathouse Coffee booth is going to be at the Congregation Bike and Hot Rod Show in Charlotte. It's one of my favorite motorcycle shows of the year, and we set up a booth, and I'll be there, and Leah Vendetta will be there, and we'll have free Cathouse coffee for you to sample, and we'll be selling some merch there. That's in Charlotte on October 7th. October 27th, 28th, and 29th, I will be at the Spooky Empire Horror Convention in Orlando. This is a really cool event, and I'll be signing stuff and selling Cathouse Headbangers Ball stuff, Cathouse coffee, as well as hosting a Q&A with Zetro from Exodus, Chuck Billy from Testament, and Rachel and Snake from Skid Row. October 31st through November 4th, I'm going to be on the Headbangers Boat, which is going to be the most badass metal cruise ever. Like, they put tickets up for sale on this thing, and they sold out like within, an hour or something. And both Leah Vendetta and myself will be on the Headbangers Boat. And this is going to be interesting because I'm going to do my One Foot in the Gutter show, but it's kind of going to be One Foot in the Galley. The cruise gets back November 4th, jump in the minivan, and then drive to Melbourne, Florida, because I'm going to be doing the first of my 2 final shows of the year for One Foot in the Gutter. This is going to be at the King Center of the Performing Arts, which is really big. And I want you all to buy tickets for that one. And there's also VFI and Road Crew. If you go to cathousehollywood.com, that'll tell you the information about that. Then November 5th is the final OFITG show of 2023 in Daytona Beach at the Bank. So you can go to the Bank, get out some money, and buy your tickets to One Foot in the Gutter at the Bank. And the Daytona tickets are going really, really fast. For those of you that don't know, I get up on stage and I tell stories about sex, drugs, rock and roll, Cathouse, Headbangers Ball, rags to riches. Just read the comments from people that have gone, because the show is very personal to me, the most personal thing I've ever done. So if I'm going to tell you how good the show is, it's kind of conceited, I guess, a little bit. But I want you to join me at these final 2 shows of 2023. Do I have plans for 2024? I don't know, but I know that I've got these shows in Florida, Daytona Beach and Melbourne, Florida. Go to cathousehollywood.com. That's where you want to buy your Cathouse shirts, and that's also where you want to get tickets for One Foot in the Gutter. And I'm going to leave you with this, Cathouse Coffee. I know I do so many plugs on the show, but I mean, it's better than having a guy talking, oh, buy this dick hard pill or anything like this. Like, these are all my companies that just make a little bit of money. But I mean, I think if somebody gave me like thousands of dollars to talk about dick hard medicine, I probably would. But in the meantime, I don't know if I would or not. But in the meantime, I'm just plugging my stuff. Have you had Cathouse Coffee? It's going to be your new favorite coffee, I promise you. And check it out. If you go to cathousecoffee.com and use the code CHP, which doesn't stand for California Highway Patrol, it stands for Cathouse Hollywood Podcast. Use the code CHP. You'll get 10% off. I know this is confusing because part of this show is recorded about 4 years ago, talking about something that happened like 30 years ago. And I'm recording this part today, unless you downloaded it in the future. I'm Riki Rachtman. Remember to keep one foot in the gutter, one fist in the goal.